I was even contemplating it, but at a point I asked him the question. I was like, "Are you seeing someone else?" And he couldn't respond. He was like, why? And he has this way of not lying, but not telling the truth. And it's beautiful. It takes skill to talk like that, right? But I see right through it. And as I saw that he was not speaking truth, I was like, no, you're not coming to New York. You see, blocked. And my heart was buried. Yeah, I say I buried it deep, but the love was still there, right? And as I went into my marriage, right, I got married and I went to Benin. uh, uh, you have to read, you have to see the other journal for what the reason why I took John and his family to Benin to face what I grew up with. When I went to Benin, somehow Derek was there. Yeah, this guy was everywhere. Every fucking where he's there. So he was there. And I saw, there was a point where I went to visit his mom to pay my respect. And yeah, in Benin, nobody, again, you are considered Caucasian. And even my dad doesn't speak Fon to me. The only person I spoke Fon with, which is Fon, is a dialect, one of the main dialects in Benin. I had to learn it because that was the only way to speak to my grandma. She wasn't educated. She didn't speak French, right? So I was very fluent in Fon. And most people, again, I was rejected by, my whole country, right? Because of the color of my skin, I wasn't recognized as a Beninese. I was recognized as a foreigner. Uh, so as we went to Derek's mother's house, so I can pay my respect, he tried to hold my hand in the car, and I pulled away because I'm a married woman at that point. But to him, it meant nothing. He wanted to still fuck around. Um, so I retracted. And as we went to his mother's place, what happened is that one of the ladies there, he introduced me as, his girlfriend, his, you know, whatever. And the lady, not knowing that I spoke French, right, said, "Oh, so the other one doesn't count?" She said it in French. And I was like, wow, this guy is really something. Wow. So the armor came up, you know. So we faced that. I saw, and then my sisters invited him at a club or whatever. So we were dancing, and I just could not stop myself. I started dancing with him, and we couldn't be. It's like I couldn't. It's like everybody disappeared. It was just him and I, right? And in that moment, I saw the danger this person was. Yes, I buried my heart. Tried. I was basically, I knew the power this guy held over me, and there was no fucking way I was gonna kill myself like my mom did, right? The hurt was, it's like he exposed things to me in such an amplified way. Yeah, he was a reflection of me. Um, yeah. So when I came back to New York, right, we pulled away. My cousin stepped in and was like, "Jen, what the fuck are you doing? You married. Your husband is right there." So in that moment, right, because I totally blacked out, it was like, it's love. Yeah, 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 yeah. So in that moment, when my cousin stepped in, I was like, holy shit. I pulled John up, took him to the bathroom, and fucked him hard. Yeah, that energy needed to come out, right? So we returned to the US, and Terry called me. He called me in the US and started flirting and saying things. I was like, that's when I slapped him really hard with my golden dick. I was like, you will not call me ever again. You will not speak to me. You will not write to me. I am a married woman, and you cannot keep talking to me this way. It's unacceptable. I want to really give a chance to John. He's my husband. I cannot do it with you being present. I have to do this part alone. You need to go be you, go, fuck off. This is basically what I told him. Since then, we never spoke again. I erased all his number and everything. He disappeared from my life then. But a couple of years after that or something, I received an email that he sent a few of his friends. He sent an email. And in this email, he took pictures of himself with his girlfriend or a woman. There was no face. It was just, her body and his hand on her ass. He took pictures of several pictures, and he sent it to a few of his friends, describing the contrast between his color and the color of this Caucasian woman. And he described, so he sent, this email was sent to me by mistake. He copied me on it by mistake, right? Because he stole my nickname and made it his email address as well, right? So by mistake, he tried to email probably this email to himself and copied me instead. So I got this email. And as I saw this email, I was like, wow, I dodged a bullet with this guy. This guy is, wow. I was like, I was so right, And that I want to expose. I have to talk about this I have to be careful how I talk about this, because again, I'm only talking about the aspect of myself, right? Because this was exposing things I tried to bury in my childhood that I didn't want to face, that I was running away from, right? So that email confirmed my decision of running away from him. And it's so beautiful, because if it wasn't for that email, I would have divorced John after. I don't care. All I had to do was call Derek, So it's like nothing is a coincidence. Everything is happening just as it should, right? Because if it wasn't for that email, I wouldn't have stayed in my marriage. And if I had not stayed in my marriage, I wouldn't have had my daughter. And it was my daughter who triggered this whole awakening, right? So it's like, this is the place where you get, right? Anyway, let's not diverge, okay? So as I got into this understanding with John, right, the dreams I was having about Derek were revealed to me, right? And I just knew what the next step was. I needed to call Derek, And for 10 years, Derek, I didn't even know it was 10 years. He told me after we reconnected that he wrote to me for 10 years and I didn't respond. I did respond at times, but I was just like, there's nothing else to do. I blocked. That's it. When it's blocked, it's blocked. There's nothing to. When the heart hears this melody, it naturally opens. So for me, it was that suffering in my marriage that finally burned away the resistance I had towards Derek. So I was like, it was like I need to call him back. And I couldn't find his number online. I had deleted his number. I didn't even know my sisters were connected to him on social media. I didn't know because there was no more talking ever of Derek. It's like you have to set people free. So I reached out I saw his brother's number online. I reached out to his brother and was like, because I used to go to school, I was a classmate of his older brother. And then I was held back, and then I became a classmate with Derek. Yeah. So I reached out to his brother, and I was like, we were catching up, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, do you have Derek's number? I need to call him now. So he gave me Derek's number. I was like, okay, bye. And I called Derek, and my heart was beating, you know. So I called him, and he picked up right away, and he was just like, Jan. It was like just hearing him call my name was wow. It's like, yeah, yeah. So we talked. Um, he told me he has a girlfriend, and he was not married, but they were living together and they had 2 kids. And in hearing that, I was happy for him, but my heart sank. Right? I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm not getting out of my marriage. That's it. So we talked, and I was for about an hour. He was at work, so we talked, and I was just like, "Good for you," and all right, bye. That's it. There's nothing else to talk about, So I hung up, and I was facing the fact that I was basically that was it. I was totally getting. There was no more hope for me, and as I was sitting in that reflection, he texted me. He texted me the pictures of his kids, and we exchanged um, data. We connected on WhatsApp, and we started talking. And he started flirting with me, So I was like, could this be? I mean, this guy told me he has a girlfriend and he has kids, and he was living the life. I don't know. So it's like I wasn't sure. It's like I was feeling like he's flirting with me, but I wasn't sure, right? So I flirted around, and we started reconnecting, and my heart, I felt I felt I felt loved. I felt appreciated. I felt valued. Yeah. So eventually I talked to him. I was like, things are not working out in my marriage, because I don't usually talk to men like this, right? When I commit, you know. Yeah, so I explained to him that I was having my marriage, something was not working out in my marriage. I have an agreement with John that I can sleep with someone else. And if he can sleep with me, if he's interested, and if, I'm not quite sure what's going on with his girlfriend, but him and I was talking about sex, fucking each other, and things like that. So I was like, are you going through the same thing with your girlfriend? Is this why, you are talking to me and approaching me this way? And he said yes. And he said, yeah, I will, I will sleep with you. you know? So I was excited. And that's when COVID hit, and we were in seclusion. But, he made COVID like a dream for me. It was, we talked every day. And that's when in May, we connected, I think, in January, end of January or beginning February. And in May, John took my phone, because I'm never on the phone. I never, I'm straight to the point. If I have to talk to someone, I just call them and I tell them what I think. And most of my friends know, when you start chatting and you're taking too long, I step in and tell you, get to the point. There's no back and forth for like 3 hours or 3 days. I had friends who did that, who would say hi to me, and it would take 3 days, this high. And there were men doing that, just trying to get my attention. You see, this is what we call the energy of vampires. You have men, who were your exes, and you're still talking to them because they can't let you go, right? So you have to slap them hard with your dick. I will expand on that later. Yeah, you have to face those energies head on. Yeah, so in May, my ex-husband John took my phone because I'm never on the phone, and he translated all of my conversation with Derek. And he asked me, "Who are you always texting?" And I'm like, "I'm texting Derek. We got in touch. I called him. You know, it was nice reconnecting with him because he knows Derek. He met him in Benin when we got married, and he knew who this guy was. Right? I told him he was the only man I fell in love with. Yeah, he's the only man who had the privilege of even being able to break my heart. The only one. Yeah. Yeah, so he took my phone, translated my interaction with Derek, and you know, sometimes some days I wake up at 5 a.m. so I can talk to Derek, you know, because he's on another timeline. He lives in a different country. Yeah, so when I woke up, my phone was telling me that I transferred data, blah blah blah, and I'm not versatile in the tech world, right? So I saw the message and I asked Derek, "Do you know what this means?" and blah blah blah. And he was like, "Yeah, it means that you transfer data, blah blah blah." And I was like, "I didn't transfer data." And in that moment, John was coming down at 5 a.m. and he was like, "I know what you're doing." So at that point, I just told Derek, "Okay, I know who did it. It's John. He's coming down. All right, I'll talk to you later." And Derek kind of like, I feel like he was nervous, but for me, I was like in heaven because I was like, yeah, time, finally. I don't even have to sleep with anybody, you know? So John was trying, he was like, "Oh, you want to sleep with this guy? You are trying to cheat on me." And I'm like, "Cheat on you? What the fuck? You forgot that we have an agreement." You know? So in that moment, he was like, "Jen, you promised to go to couples therapy." I'm like, "Buddy, it's May. We had this conversation in December. You have not lifted a finger. You have not even looked for a therapist." You see, this is what we call accountability. You know, it's time to grow the fuck up. What you say, now I'm going to expose it, right? And he was like, "No, I'm going to look for the therapist. We're going to do this. I'm like, "Sure, do it, you know, but either way, we're going to get a divorce. Either you file for the divorce now or we do it later. You know, the choice is yours, but no more getting into physical fight or pretending to love each other. It ends with me." You know, so that's where we left it. And I kept texting Derek in front of John. You know, I was like, "I'm not going to hide. No more hiding." You know? So, and after this discovery, John and I never slept again until I filed for divorce, because after that, I went to Benin and I slept with Derek, and meeting him in Benin was the catalyst, right? Yeah, we chatted and we texted and we did all of this, and he was telling me everything I dreamed of hearing from him, you know, because I grew up in a household where my dad never told me he loved me. Never. I never heard "I love you," those words from my father, right? And it was the same with Derek. He never told me he loved me. Never. You know, that's where the doubt, when this betrayal happened, this perceived betrayal happened when I was 19, you know, the doubt that was introduced, the disconnect he made with my heart was tremendous. You know, it was like, there's no way I'm going back there, right? That resistance was high. So as I decided to sleep with Derek, I was like, no matter what, I will not fall in love with him. I will not fall back in love with him. It's like, just fuck him and get the fuck out, right? Because I started noticing things that he would say and things he would do. But, you know, I was like, let's not talk about it. I brought up Sarah at a point. Again, if you don't know who Sarah is the person who was involved in that event when I was 19. You have to go back to the video, the prior videos. So I brought up Sarah, but you know, when it comes up, Derek just shuts down. He doesn't want to talk about it. He just stays quiet and he withdraws. And so I'm like, I had to be careful. I was like, yeah, I have to be careful because if I'm not careful, this guy is not gonna fuck me and I'm not gonna get out. I'm not gonna get out of this cage I have created for myself in this marriage, you know? So I would sense that when I brought something up, I brought up Victor. Ooh, Victor. We'll expand on Victor. It's coming. We'll expand on him. Okay? So I will bring up, but I will bring it up with such rage, those are the wounds surfacing. And for me, I have not faced any of these because I hid them away very deeply in me, in my heart, right? So every time I'll bring this thing up, Derek will shut down, he'll stay quiet, just silence. So I learned to let those things go. I learned to not bring them up anymore until we face each other in Benin. So when we went to Benin, right, I saw him, and wow, it's like I had my defenses up, I had my armor up. I'm like, no fucking way, we're gonna let this guy hurt us again, you know? I was like ready, but I was so excited. So when I saw him, in that moment, I realized how much I missed him. It's like when I saw him, I was like, yeah, I missed him, you know? I felt my heart beat in ways that it has never beaten before. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? What is this? He was going bold, but it made him even sexier. He showed maturity, and he looked like a man. He looked like a man. He was a man. Wow. And the way he took me in bed, I was like, wow, it's contrast. Yeah, this guy, yeah. Because in contrast with my husband, John, right? My husband, John, didn't have too many partners. So when we came together, he wasn't really conscious of what to do in bed with a woman, which helped me open up, right? Because John was the first person I reached climax with. Yeah, it misled me, because him not knowing and this is what porn does to you, right? If you are, this is what I'm saying. Porn embodies the superficiality of things, right? If your connection to sexuality is based on the superficiality, how things look, that disconnect when you have an actual impress in your bed, you don't know how to approach it, right? So in sleeping with John and seeing his inexperience in bed, right, it helped me open up in discovering my own body. I would touch myself, I would guide him, I would say, no, don't move like this, and I would train him into what I like, how I like it, and that's how I reached climax. But with Derek, right, when we slept that first time together, because even prior to that, the only time Derek and I slept together was when I was 17, that one time. We tried when I tried to leave the US, but it didn't work out. So that time in Benin, yeah, this guy was quite something. And it's not that, but I couldn't climax with him. And I don't climax, I couldn't climax with a lot of men, right? It's just in my marriage, because I took charge of my own sexuality, that I was able to reach climax. Yeah. And that spoke to my me not feeling safe around the men that I attracted in my life, right? Yeah. But there was a point where, and in that time with Derek, ooh, things came out. Things came out hard. Like, although sleeping with him was, compared to any other man, the best sexual experience I had, it was still just a drop of water of what I can reach sexually, right? Because I had my armor up. I was not open uh, with him. I was protecting my heart, right? So it's then that things started coming up, because every time we will sleep together, he will point out the contrast between my skin and his skin, which used to trigger me. But it's like, no, no, let it go. Don't talk about it. This is your only chance, don't freak out. So I will drink myself. Yeah, that was, from the marriage to Derek, it's like I was just numbing myself with alcohol, because that was the only way my ego will remain calm, right? I numb. It's like all these emotions were surfacing, And again, I want to bring up to these men, right, in Benin, who, and I learned this through observing my dad and his behaviors, and my brother, right? Because it's like this is a result of the unconscious effect of colonialism, right? Where in Benin was colonized by the French, right? And for the Beninese, this collective unconscious behavior is that the Caucasian, right, is superior. And it took a lot of observation on my end to really figure this out, because it's so beautiful. This is why I'm like, women, we do not recognize our own power in creating this reality. You see, we do not. Because in Benin, and I can only speak about Benin, I cannot talk about the whole continent of Africa, because that would be misleading people. In Benin, what I have observed, right, and this unconscious behavior, right, enabled by the collective in Benin, it was manifested in women lightening their skin, to reach that ultimate version, which is becoming Caucasian, right? So this is a behavior all across Benin, even in my aunt, my dad's sisters will openly buy products to lighten their skin, so their skin can look like mine, and and it, even watching documentaries of to which extent women with broken glass will scratch their skin and bleach themselves so they can appear Caucasian. And this behavior, led by women, right, raising their kids in that environment and enabling that, right, these wounded boys, right, being venerated by their mother, idolized, enabled, right, grow up thinking that success, right, because it's a superficiality, it's an illusion, right? But you grow up within that illusion, and it's unconscious, right? So for these men, the ultimate partner right? The ultimate embodiment of the success, the ideal woman, is based on the contrast with their own skin, right? It's beautiful. You have to be like able to really take time and study people, and not condemn. You have to appreciate the craft, because when you can let that, it's like I couldn't see it. I was getting triggered every time Derek pointed out the contrast with our skin, you know. But it's like I would resist. I'm like, no, don't show him. Don't let it go. Let's fucking get the fuck out, and that's it. Get out of your marriage and start over, right? That was my objective, right? So after that, it's like things just kept happening, right? So that was the first phase. And then we connected in ways where it's like I tried resisting it, but I couldn't, because that's it. I went back. There's a reason why my heart brought me back there. Everything he said, it's like he started talking about building a life with me, and I was like, don't believe him, don't believe him. I resisted. I was like, no, it's not. How could this be? So he started talking about love, wanting to do, wanting me to have his baby. And I was like, I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no. I wanted to say no. I opened my mouth to say no. And the only word that came out is, yes, I want to have your baby. Because for me, having someone's baby is the highest honor. You know, it's a way of keeping them in your life forever. And this is why I said to John, I couldn't understand why he held on so tight. I'm like, we're always going to be a family. You have the honor of being the father of my daughter. You will always be held in the highest regard in my heart, because that's the highest respect I can give any man, to decide to have your baby, their baby. It's for me, is the biggest testament of love, right? Yeah, so when Derek asked me to have his baby, I I said yes, and I know exactly the moment we procreated that baby, because I felt it. Yeah, it was made out of pure love. My heart opened up, you know things started changing. Yeah, so we had the best time. I reconnected with some of my high school friends, and it's like things started coming back to life in ways where it's like I was discovering a part of me that has been dormant, that I buried away.